This is a review of my favorite movie for each year that I've been alive. Now, in 2025, I am turning 30 years old, and I was reflecting on how I could commemorate 30. And the one thing that's been consistent about my entire life is my love of movies. And in 2017, I was inspired by someone online who made this list, their favorite film for each year of their life since they were born. I was born in 1995. Turning 30 in 2025. 30 years, 30 movies. Each year I'll talk about other movies that could have been my favorite but maybe didn't make it, as well as some other big ones, notable ones that came out that year, because ultimately you can track my life by the movies that came out with it. They say that like a human being is like the culmination of the 5 people that they're closest to. Well, I'm probably the culmination of these 30 movies ahead. Let's get started with 1995. Now, when I made this list in 2017, I had some choices, and over the years, I've updated this list. So I'm also going to talk about how that's changed and how that's evolved. Because as a movie fan, sometimes your opinion changes, your taste changes, and that's certainly been true for me. So in 2017, when I made my choice for 1995, my favorite movie of 1995, the answer was easy. Toy Story. Now, Toy Story was a movie I grew up with. Of course, when I was 0, I probably didn't go to the movies and see it. Of course, when I was an infant, I probably didn't go to the movies and see it, but I saw it a billion times. The minute it came to VHS was a regular play in my household. That was my choice. One of the best animated movies of all time, in my opinion. But my current choice for my favorite movie of 1995 is Before Sunrise. Richard Linklater movie with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy. This young man and young woman meet on a train that's passing through Vienna. They both decide to get off, and he has a flight early in the morning, and they make a night of it. It is one of the most amazing movies I've ever seen. I remember seeing it in my little apartment in Glendale when I just moved to LA. I put it off for so long. I watched it on Valentine's Day. I will never forget how that movie affected me. It's so amazing. The conversations, nothing really happens, but you watch these two human beings connect in this gorgeous, gorgeous movie that is my favorite movie of 1995. Now, a lot of good movies did come out that year. 90s was a great time for comedies, in my opinion. 1995, Billy Madison is probably up there as one of my favorite funny movies of all time. Tommy Boy came out that year. Heavyweights, love Heavyweights. 7, great crime movie. The Usual Suspects, also a great crime movie. Major Payne, Heat, and Casino. Those are other notable ones. In the 90s, I will definitely say a lot of blind spots here when it comes to these movies, but these were ones that I've caught up with later or I did watch at a younger age. Love all those. 1996, the answer has never changed, and I don't know that it will, because Tom Hanks wrote and directed a movie in 1996 called That Thing You Do that is my favorite movie, maybe of all time, but definitely of 1996. This one came and went, and it's amazing when I meet other people who love this movie as well. It's like my family's like household movie. It was thrown on all the time, but I remember I would tell, kids about it at school or whatever, and no one had any idea about this movie. As I get older, you hear that other families, other people connected with this movie in a great way. Amazing, wonderful lines of dialogue, hilarious moments. Steve Zahn absolutely kills it. Story of a band, kind of like the Beatles in the 60s. And they get a one-hit wonder. And this is like what happens when you get a one-hit wonder. I think it's kind of timeless, too. I feel like we've seen a lot of one-hit wonders over the years, and you kind of just see the excitement of that and then the fall of that. Great, great movie. 1996 was a decent year for kids in the movies. You got Matilda, which was actually directed by Danny DeVito. I don't think a lot of people know that. Very formative movie, very great movie. 2 NBA stars had movies for kids. Space Jam with Michael Jordan, of course. Fantastic movie. But the other one, Kazam. Yeah, very formative movie. A little play on you get Shaquille O'Neal. You rub a lamp, and then you get Shaquille O'Neal. What a dream as a kid. Now, I don't know that this movie holds up, but I had to note it. Very formative one. D3, Mighty Ducks came out in 1996 as well. Loved that trilogy. And Happy Gilmore, Adam Sandler, 1996. What a run. Had to cover it. 1997, my favorite movie, 97, real easy, Good Will Hunting. If you haven't seen this movie, You have to. This is Matt Damon. This is Ben Affleck. This is the script that they wrote that won Best Original Screenplay. This is Robin Williams. After you've seen him in every funny role ever, you see him take on this amazing dramatic role. He escapes into this role of Will Hunting's therapist, and absolutely amazing movie. Great scenes. Something about this movie too is that it makes Boston a character. It makes you want to go to those parks or those scenes that they're all in. It's just amazing what they used with the setting of this movie, like walking around Harvard campus or Columbia. Gosh, it just makes you want to go there. I love it when movies do that. And Good Will Hunting is just one of the best. Plenty of great movies came out in 97. Jackie Brown, an early of Quentin Tarantino's. If you haven't seen it, do it. Liar Liar to highlight some Jim Carrey's epic run in the 90s. Now, there are two movies that came out in 97 that I've seen a billion times, and it was the ending of several 90s franchises that didn't really end very well, but I've still seen them a million times. That's Batman and Robin, and it's Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. Both of those franchises crushed the 90s, but they were clearly dying out in 97. Nonetheless, I loved them. 1998, my answer did change for this year. So when I made this list, my answer was Rounders. Rounders is a fantastic movie. Matt Damon, Edward Norton, John Malkovich, great poker movie. Awesome. Can't say enough about Rounders. But my answer did change after I watched The Truman Show for the first time. And The Truman Show blew me away like it blows away most people. It's crazy how much it holds up today in a world where, everyone is filming themselves. You get Jim Carrey in this kind of serious, kind of fun, kind of goofy, but serious role, and just kills it. And it's this great story of trying to figure out your own identity. And he's in this world where everything plays out for him and he has to figure out who he is. Great story, top to bottom. And I do get that it's a thing to love The Truman Show, but it really is formative. And maybe I'm just a young guy who loves this movie. Adam Sandler got a couple dubs here in 1998. You'll get what I mean in a second. Waterboy and The Wedding Singer. Both great movies. The Wedding Singer may be the best rom-com of all time. I could argue that. So I got a double feature here for 1998. A Soldiers double feature. Saving Private Ryan came out in 98. Solid one, worth mentioning. And Small Soldiers. Wow, this is Toy Story, but action figures. This is a little more edgy, a little more intense. The Gorgonites. If you've seen Small Soldiers, if you grew up in a household with boys, this is a formative movie, and I had to mention it because it's important for my film journey. So maybe watch those two and report back. 1999, when I made this list in 2017, my answer was The Sixth Sense. M. Night Shyamalan. I was actually recommended to watch this movie, even though I knew that there was this twist that had been in pop culture forever and everyone joked about randomly here and there. And I wasn't there for when that wowed everyone, and I'm sure that was an incredible, amazing moment. But to watch it later, someone told me that movie doesn't necessarily need the twist to be a great movie. The twist helps and really is amazing, but along the way, it is a great mystery. And I agree. It blew me away when I saw it. So my answer did change, and it's because I saw another Jim Carrey movie that blew me away, and it's Man on the Moon. Again, Jim Carrey went through this tear in the 90s with The Mask, with Ace Ventura, with Dumb and Dumber, and ending with Man on the Moon in 1999 is crazy. This is Jim Carrey in the Andy Kaufman biopic, a comedian from the 70s who was just as wacky as Jim. And there's so much lore from the set of this movie too, because Jim went full method with it, maybe to an annoying extent. There is a Netflix documentary on it as well, but it just shows you just how crazy of an artist and an actor Jim Carrey is. There's no doubt that Jim Carrey is on the Mount Rushmore of DBN actors. One of the best of all time. One of my favorites ever. I love Man on the Moon. It was crazy to see him in this role, and just a really good character study because Andy Kaufman was such an interesting dude, and I think it's clear that Jim thought so as well, and I love this movie. Other notable ones from 99, The Phantom Menace and that epic poster. Yeah, right there. It's beautiful. Ooh, yeah, she's beautiful. Big Daddy continues Adam Sandler's crazy run through the 90s. We watched Adam Sandler a lot growing up, so he's on this list quite a bit. 10 Things I Hate About You, amazing movie, holds up well, great coming of age. None of them are high school age, but, that was also making coming of age movies back then. Great one, Heath Ledger, Joseph Gordon-Levitt in high school together, the Joker and Robin. But it's just amazing. It'll bring a smile to your face. It'll bring chills up your body. So much fun, good laughter, great romance too. Good, maybe one of the best coming of age romance movies too. Of course, based off Shakespeare. Love 10 Things I Hate About You. Of course, Fight Club and The Matrix. That's crazy that they both came out in the same year. And then I have to highlight Mystery Men, because Mystery Men, I believe, was ahead of its time, about these like superheroes where one's the Shoveler and one is Mr. Fury, and they're all like ridiculous superheroes, and they're like, they're like the underdogs. They're like the average Joes, and they're trying to become superheroes, and it's way ahead of its time. I think if something like this, it's kind of like Kick-Ass, I guess, if you saw that one. Mystery Men, we watched that a million times, and maybe it's just dudes dressing up in costumes fighting was the like peak of our existence when we were young boys. But I love Mystery Men. Holds up, still funny, and such an interesting style. Like, I was really making fun of the Batman movies, and yeah. It was really, great movie. I recommend Mystery Men. Also appeared in the movie Y2K, directed by Kyle Mooney in 2024. There was a big cutout of Mystery Men in the video store of that movie, and I have no idea where he got that, but one of my favorite movie moments of 2024 was that Mystery Men cutout. Incredible. So my favorite movie of 2000 is Memento. Christopher Nolan, early work. One of my favorite directors, of course. He plays with time in a way that you've never seen before. Like the way this is structured. I don't want to give away too much if you haven't seen it, but Memento is this great crime thriller that plays out in a very surprising way. Very like, if you were to explain it to someone, it would be hard for you to get that movie made, which kind of goes to show that like someone trusted Christopher Nolan to make this movie and to blow it out of the water, and he absolutely did. And this set him on a crazy trajectory to keep pushing the boundaries. And we're going to see more of Christopher Nolan on this list. There's no doubt about that. But to get Memento in the year 2000, crazy. And a lot of good movies came out in 2000, but Memento, to me, top of the list. You get a Christmas classic. Jim Carrey's Grinch comes out in 2000, him popping off after his 90s. American Psycho, Gladiator, Remember the Titans, The Patriot, Castaway, Meet the Parents, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Bring It On, Phantom of the Megaplex. Gotta highlight Phantom. I just listed a bunch of good movies, but I need to stop on Phantom of the Megaplex because I spent a lot of time at the movies. And for some reason, every October, Disney Channel original movie, Phantom of the Megaplex, even now, I'm like, gosh, do I watch it? I think I have to. 2001, my answer did change on this one since 2017. When I wrote this list and I was doing my research back then, it was pretty automatic that the answer was A Knight's Tale. We watched A Knight's Tale a lot growing up. It's a great movie. I have so much fun watching A Knight's Tale. I kind of feel like throwing it on tonight even and watching it. It's so good. But my answer did change to Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11 is the best movie that came out of 2001, in my opinion, because you have this literal all-star cast of Hollywood's gentlemen that are coming not only to steal from Las Vegas, but they're here to steal your hearts as well. And you're going to get an entire trilogy out of this movie because this one is so successful. This movie is another one, kind of like I was saying about Good Will Hunting. Like Vegas itself is a personality. I can't watch this movie without wanting to go to Vegas. I want to go to Vegas without seeing this movie, but if I see this movie, it's like I have to go to Vegas. It's one of the best commercials for it, even though it's like 20 years old now and like all the sites and whatnot don't fully hold up. You still want to go. You still want to be on the floor of that room, and you still want to think that you can take down Vegas like you're Danny Ocean. Such a good movie, such a good score. Ocean's 11's another one. If it's on TV, I got to finish it. And I will say this too, is that I was not an iPad kid growing up. I was too young for that, just barely. But what I will say is I was a cable kid. I watched a lot of cable. I watched a lot of Nick at Night. I watched a lot of ABC Family, TNT, USA. So a lot of these movies were playing a bunch then, and I've seen them a million times. And they are in the category of, if it's on TV, I'm going to watch it. I don't know that if people who are growing up now are going to have that same even idea. If it's on, I'm going to watch it. So I got to throw that phrase out there in case it goes away. 2001, epic year for movies. The Fellowship of the Ring came out this year. Training Day. Shrek came out, very iconic. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Zoolander. Max Keeble's Big Move. Wow. Take a drink every time I say formative, because that one's formative too. Rat Race and Laura Croft, Tomb Raider. Take another drink. Formative, if you know what I mean. A couple of good double features I want to throw out there. The first one from 2001 is Animated Worlds We Didn't Know About or Didn't Know That We Could Be Entertained By. That double feature is Osmosis Jones and Monsters, Inc. The germs in our body and the monsters in our closet. 2 animated movies that came out that year. 2 very big movies, very important movies, I would say. So there's another double feature you could do too, if you don't like that one. This one is, hey, are you a kid and are you worried maybe about government intelligence, cybersecurity, or anything like that? This is for kids, remember? So the 2 movies are Spy Kids, boom, gotta watch it, and Cats and Dogs, all right? So you don't need grown people to help run the country and intelligence and whatnot. We need kids and we need cats and dogs. Dogs and cats. One of the 2. Both of those came out. Both were effective. I saw both dozens of times. Another one is military movies that I get mixed up a lot. Came out in 2001. That's Behind Enemy Lines and Black Hawk Down. Couldn't tell you which is which, but both were entertaining. I do remember that. 2002, my answer is a Steven Spielberg movie. First Spielberg of the list. That is Catch Me If You Can. I love this movie because you get a great, young, witty Leonardo DiCaprio up against a sharp Tom Hanks. Leo is on the run as Frank Abagnale Jr., Christopher Walken, Amy Adams also supporting in this cast. This movie is just a fun ride. I think you go so many places with this one, and there's so many clever, quippy dialogue scenes here, but you also are just carried through it by this kind of wonderful adventure of a con man, which is a really interesting movie that was based on a true story. So I loved it, and I love throwing this one on. 2002 was definitely when I started watching movies a lot more as kids, because a lot of these are pretty familiar. Like Mike, Big Fat Liar, or both those movies formative. Big Fat Liar, still a great movie about Hollywood and LA. You get The Master of Disguise, which is one that I think kids loved, but I think is a terrible movie, which those are ones you maybe leave that in the good part of your brain. Don't go back and rewatch it. Just stay away. It was funny. The turtle thing. It was great. Clock Stoppers, Cadet Kelly, 8 Mile, Spider-Man, Mr. Deeds, and Harry Potter 2 came out in 2002, which I'm going to list every Harry Potter movie every year that it came out, because that's another thing that's crazy to me, that in my lifetime, I got to experience 8 movies in 10 years telling one story that evolves so well and keeps continuity so well, and really is just one of the best stories of my lifetime, and it plays out so well, and at a time where I was 7 years old when Harry Potter 2 came out. That is near perfect. I think I was 2011. I think I was almost graduated high school by the time the finale was. So the Harry Potter series will be mentioned because it was just there literally along the whole way. 2003 is for School of Rock. It'll always be School of Rock. I can't imagine changing it. This is a perfect storm of a movie. You get Mike White writing, you get Richard Linklater directing, and you get the role of his llifetime, Jack Black. No one was made for any role more than Jack Black was made for Dewey Finn. And School of Rock. This is a movie that I just get happy thinking about it. I loved it as a kid. I love it as an adult. It really shaped, the way that working with this age group is something I've done a ton in my life. And a part of me thinks one, I loved being that age, and I know how hard it is to be that age, and to take kids that are that age and to tell this story and that they are the superstars, but then you get a Jack Black mascot character the whole way to take them along, to lead them to the battle of the bands. And I'm not going to spoil it, but damn, No Vacancy. I'd go see No Vacancy. That's a deep cut. That's side note. But I love School of Rock. It is a great movie. It was in my mom's car. It was the only DVD in my mom's car for a while. And when we were parked up somewhere, we were waiting to pick up someone or do something, we'd throw on School of Rock. So great memories with it. I love School of Rock. Gosh, it'll never get old, and it's still in the ether now in 2025 because 2 castmates from School of Rock got married. Oh my gosh, it's perfect. Name another movie where that's happened. It hasn't, ever. First time. But 2003 movie theaters made a lot of money off of me, guarantee you, because a lot of great movies came out. Holes, yeah, that's how I start. Elf came out in 2003 and Love Actually, so two holiday classics that still live on today. Other ones, The Italian Job. Now this is okay, so this is the run of kids movies that goes crazy. Kangaroo Jack, Secondhand Lions, Pirates of the Caribbean, Cheaper by the Dozen, and Daddy Daycare. Crazy. Agent Cody Banks, Freaky Friday, the Even Stevens movie, Lizzie McGuire movie, The Haunted Mansion, and Finding Nemo. I mean, look, I didn't really list any adult movies here because that was like Murderer's Row for me as a kid. And pretty sure I saw all those movies in theaters. Maybe not Even Stevens movie because I think that might have just came out as a Disney Channel original movie. Hard to say. 2003 was a good year. 2004 brings my favorite sports movie of all time to the surface. It's Miracle. Miracle is about the Miracle on Ice in Lake Placid at the 1980 Winter Olympics. Kurt Russell, at the height of his powers, one might say, with speeches of a lifetime. You even get scenes like them on the ice, and he just has to keep whistling until they're running and running and running. And what's the name on your jersey? And oh my gosh, one of the best sports movies of all time, my favorite sports movie of all time, and my favorite movie of 2004, even though a lot of great ones came out that year. Before Sunset, Dodgeball, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I just want to take a poll real quick here for 2004. You get two movies here. What's the better romance story here? You got to tell me. The Notebook or Cinderella Story. It's tough. I'm going Cinderella Story every day. But some people love The Notebook. I want to be happy and see Jennifer Coolidge. I'm going Cinderella Story. More page to screen as series of unfortunate events comes out. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. A lot of people think that's the best one. National Treasure. Kenan Thompson's Fat Albert. That's not what the title is, but I wanted to remind you that Kenan Thompson was Fat Albert in 2004. The Incredibles. Napoleon Dynamite. Ocean's 12 came out in 2004, but we don't have to mention that. I can cut that out. 2005 brings us another Christopher Nolan movie, as my favorite movie of 2005 is Batman Begins. Before Robert Pattinson became the Caped Crusader, probably the best iteration of Batman, in my opinion, in a movie was Batman Begins. I love this origin story with Christian Bale, with Liam Neeson, of course, Michael Caine as Alfred, and Gary Oldman, who really becomes Jim Gordon in this movie. I love Batman Begins, and honestly, unfortunately, the sequel is one of the best movies of all time, and that kind of keeps Batman Begins in the shadow, but on its own, it is such a great movie. Cillian Murphy, too, as a young Scarecrow. Love Batman Begins. Can't get enough of it. Big Batman fan, too, so had to get Batman. He'll be on the list later, too, so don't even worry about it. But let me tell you something. 2005 was the year of sports movies. If you could pick any year, I think I'm picking 2005. Of course, it doesn't have Miracle in it, but listen to this. Coach Carter, The Greatest Game Ever Played, The Longest Yard, Fever Pitch. Oh, one of the best rom-coms for the guys and for the girls. Kicking and Screaming, and The Ringer. I mean, every sport is mentioned. Everyone. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire also came out in 2004. That's the one with the bad haircuts. Revenge of the Sith was in 2005. Very emotional ending to Star Wars. I do remember seeing this one in theater, and this was pretty epic, pretty scary. And I remember actually feeling like so scared and so sad that Anakin fell to the dark side. I really felt that as a 10-year-old. Gosh, things you remember. Chronicles of Narnia, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the things you wish you could forget. The Pacifier, Yours, Mine, and Ours, and Because of Winn-Dixie, Yours, Mine, and Ours, and of course, Waiting came out in 2005. Ryan Reynolds, Justin Long, working at like kind of an Applebee's or a Chili's type situation, but one of the best representations of working at a restaurant that I've ever seen. Better than The Bear. Probably more realistic than The Bear, because I don't know anyone who's worked in a restaurant that intense, but I have seen people, and I have worked at places like the one in Waiting. It is a very raunchy, very like mid-2000s raunchy, like they go for it, time capsule movie, but it definitely hits the nail on the head of what it's like to work in a restaurant. Viewer discretion is advised on that one, but I recommend it. 2006, my answer is the Best Picture winner from the year 2006, and that is Martin Scorsese's The Departed. Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson, Alec Baldwin, Mark Wahlberg. Such a stacked cast. Amazing crime thriller that pulls you left and right. You're not sure who to root for the whole step of the way, and every single actor brings it. Another one where like Boston is a character in this. Of course, it's about the Boston mob and like the police department there. You can't say enough about The Departed. If you haven't seen it, I'm so jealous of you because I would love to be able to watch The Departed for the first time. I can't get enough of it. And I'm glad the Academy chose it as a Best Picture winner because the DBN does as well for 2006. I will say this is the closest second of the list thus far. I got The Prestige is number 2 this year. Easily could have been number 1. It kills me that it came out the same year as The Departed. But I love The Prestige. Great Christopher Nolan movie. Worth mentioning. The Pursuit of Happiness was great. Talladega Nights, my second favorite Will Ferrell comedy. The Holiday, Children of Men, Casino Royale, Once, RV, Night at the Museum. Come on. Step Up was big for our generation. Benchwarmers, Click, and Invincible. Why not? Let's throw Vince Papale on there. Come on. They had a lot. Like Marky Mark was busy that year. 2007 was a great year for cinema. Great year for film. And No Country for Old Men is my favorite movie from 2007. Coen Brothers, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, this like neo-Western. Oh my gosh. It terrifies you. Javier Bardem's character is one of the scariest villains in movie history. Talked about that with Richie here on the network. Check it out. I love No Country for Old Men. Another one, you can throw that one on at any time and you're great. You're set. You can just relax, kick your feet up, get scared, get excited, get thrilled. No Country for Old Men. I know that year a lot of people love to talk about There Will Be Blood also coming out the same year, which is crazy that those two came out in the same year because There Will Be Blood, another one where it's like, yeah, that might be the best movie of the year. But No Country is where I lean when it comes to those two. Other great movies came out in 2007. Disturbia, Shooter, Gone Baby Gone, Blades of Glory, Juno, Hot Rod. Shout out The Lonely Island, man. When The Lonely Island were big when I was, 12, 13, that's a perfect time for The Lonely Island. I was their target audience, it felt like, in a lot of ways. Bridge to Terabithia, for some of us, our first encounter with death and pain and loss. Oh my gosh. I think I really felt that when that happened. Shout out Josh Hutcherson, Anna Sophia Robb. Powerful movie. Bridge to Terabithia. Should not be devastating movie. Devastating. Wild Hogs, worth a mention. We also talked about that one on the network. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. National Treasure 2, Spider-Man 3, and Ocean's 13. That right there is the trilogy of movies that killed their franchises. Also, my favorite long title of a movie is in 2007, The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford. Casey Affleck, Brad Pitt. I probably should have mentioned Brad Pitt first, but, the mind does what it wants. Check it out. 2008, The Dark Knight. No wasting time. The Dark Knight is one of the best crime movies of all time, one of the best superhero movies of all time, and it might be one of Christopher Nolan's best movies of all time as well. I remember seeing this movie in the theaters 5 times, maybe 6. And that summer, it was kind of hidden what the Joker would be like. You saw the poster where he was, you could see like he looked like he was marking up his smile a little bit. But what a powerhouse performance that never gets old and never gets like less satisfying to watch. Like an absolutely amazing, amazing movie of so many turns, so many huge set pieces that were just so exciting. And gosh, just bringing Batman into the real world like this. And like Batman, all of us are held hostage by the performance of Heath Ledger as the Joker. Can't be talked about enough. That performance does not stop. That performance satisfies every time I watch this movie. It's amazing. Scene-stealing moments from Heath Ledger. Just scene after scene in this movie. They just stack them. From that opening bank heist all the way to the end of Batman riding off Really left us with the craziest cliffhanger ever, too, at the time. I love The Dark Knight. There's no doubt, no question, this was my favorite movie of 2008. Even though another great superhero movie, maybe my second favorite superhero movie of all time, Iron Man came out in 2008. Pineapple Express also came out in 2008. More Seth Rogen, James Franco there. Role Models, one of the best comedies. Slumdog Millionaire, More Than a Game, the LeBron James documentary about his high school basketball team. I watched it. I own it. It's in my digital library. And it's not a great documentary, but I love this movie because LeBron is such a big part of my life too, with loving basketball. And honestly, it's just it's not good in that it's just a lot of raw footage and it's them talking kind of close to the time it happened. So it captures the moment right then and there, and it's not a lot of pizzazz to it, but there's just so many great moments that come from this. And you see what were LeBron's teammates like back then. And it's just incredible to see. I feel like I'll always watch that. Never Back Down came out in 2008. This was maybe in the middle of MMA. Wasn't quite as big, but I don't know if you can name a better hype movie than Never Back Down. Soundtrack, just fight scenes, high school fighting. Again, none of those actors are in high school, but in the movie they're in high school. It's crazy. Four Christmases came out in 2008, holiday classic. 21, good Vegas movie. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That was the year they tried that. And Eagle Eye also came out in 2008. So shout out Shia LaBeouf. Good paycheck year for you. 2009, my answer was Zombieland, because Zombieland is such a fun ride. Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Abigail Breslin, Emma Stone. It made you want to live in a zombie apocalypse. They made it seem like it would be a great time with great personalities. And I love that Woody Harrelson's character, really all he has is he wants to find the last Twinkie. I think that is such a great character. Also, Mike White is in this movie. If you forget, go check it out. But my answer did change because my favorite movie of 2009 is Funny People. Judd Apatow directed, Adam Sandler, Leslie Mann, Seth Rogen. On the surface, on the cover, it looks like this movie would be a funny movie. It's not. And I think that's maybe why I love it. It's a very long movie about an Adam Sandler type character played by Adam Sandler who is facing death and kind of comes to terms with himself and lets himself live a little more and uses Seth Rogen in a crazy way. Leslie Mann comes back into his life. I think this is a great movie. And there are a lot of people that pop up in this movie too that are interesting. Bo Burnham being one. Jonah Hill's in this movie. Aubrey Plaza's in this movie. Aziz Ansari is in this movie. A lot of young comedians that it's clear Judd Apatow was looking at yeah, let me get you in there. Let me get you in here. And I think it pays off, and it's a fantastic movie. I don't think it's for everyone. I don't know that I can recommend it, but I love it. 2009 also gave us the 500 Days of Summer, a movie I've seen dozens of times, it feels like. I'm Team Summer. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, my favorite movie of the series. Sherlock Holmes, The Hangover, Inglourious Bastards, Avatar, Up, 17 Again, and Star Trek. I just want to give a shout out to Star Trek. Chris Pine, Star Trek, a very good movie. 2010, I'm so grateful for because it gave me one of my favorite movies of all time, The Social Network. I absolutely adore this movie. I remember I saw this one in the theater, and I remember thinking, man, am I about to go see a movie about Facebook? This seems so boring. And you know what? It's one of the greatest movies of all time. It's a great story about friends, about enemies, about ambition, and I don't know. The way you can tell a movie is great, I feel like I've learned, is can it stack great scenes on top of each other all the way to the end? And I believe The Social Network does from the jump. I talked about that a little bit with The Dark Knight, but every scene in The Social Network to me was a gorgeous portrait that continued along this crazy story that has only gotten crazier as years go by, which Facebook, which now has billions and billions and billions of users. Absolutely wild that this movie captured from a book, Accidental Billionaires, with a great Aaron Sorkin script and David Fincher directing. Great performances across the board from Jesse Eisenberg and Andrew Garfield. Justin Timberlake even there, I think for the role of his lifetime too, in Sean Parker. I love this movie. I could talk about it for a long time, and I did. Another close second here for my honorable mention, Inception, Christopher Nolan movie. It kills me that like Inception wasn't the best movie of that year because Social Network came out. Come out a different year, Inception. How about that? Because it's great. Probably one of my favorite Leo performances as well. I think that's underrated. That doesn't get highlighted as much. But I love Inception. I've saw that one in theaters at least 5 times as well. Shutter Island, another great one. The Other Guys, my favorite Will Ferrell movie. Never Let Me Go, Insidious, The Town, shout out Boston, and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. 2011, my answer did change in this one as I was looking at this list. So it was Super 8, which I do love Super 8. Good kids coming of age movie about making movies. And this was clearly like near and dear to J.J. Abrams' heart. I just gave a shout out to Star Trek, which was J.J. Abrams. It was clear that he made this movie on this big scale with maybe a mysterious monster and these big sets and big cast. Because maybe he was working towards getting Star Wars, The Force Awakens down the road a little bit. And I think this movie actually did that for him. It's not my favorite movie of 2011. I'm going with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. This is a bit of a legacy pick because I think it's all of the movies in one, and I have to just highlight it again. I can't believe it. I just watched through them all to end my 20s, and I can't believe how hard they still hit. And I'm so glad to be alive when they were coming out, and it's the continuity alone like blows me away. We've just seen so many franchises in my life try to start and fail. Because you just can't keep telling the story, and you can't keep getting people to tell the same story. Even with Marvel and the success it's had with the MCU, you got a bunch of different stories, and then you put them all together in one, and it worked once, maybe twice, but that's it. And to me, it blows me away that Harry Potter did it, and it's ending in those last hour and 45 minutes of Deathly Hallows Part 2, some of the best cinema that I've ever enjoyed. For sure. So I got to give it up for Harry Potter, The Deathly Hallows Part 2. Other great movies that came out in 2011, Drive, The Cabin in the Woods, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Source Code, not sure why, but I like that one. Sherlock Holmes 2, Crazy Stupid Love, excellent rom-com with a stacked cast as well. 2012, I'm going sci-fi with my pick here. This is a Rian Johnson movie. This is similar to the J.J. Abrams point I just made. I think this movie got Rian Johnson Star Wars The Last Jedi. And that movie in 2012 was Looper with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis, Emily Blunt, Paul Dano. I just adore this movie. This is one of my favorite sci-fi movies of the 2010s, of the 21st century as well. I thought it was such a cool world that they built. That time travel exists, but you had to send people back, and maybe it was a little complicated, but for me, I was suspended enough to enjoy it fully. I loved it. I loved how they used time travel, and that it was only a certain window, and that you kind of saw someone develop over the years and then jump back in time. Excellent movie. Well done by Rian Johnson. I know not everyone loves this one, but I do. Now, this was the same year that The Dark Knight Rises came out. Didn't make the list. This is the only Batman Christopher Nolan movie to not make the DBN 30 for 30. Wow, is that what we're calling it? I like it. Django Unchained also came out. Argo won Best Picture. I agree. I thought that was a great movie. Perks of Being a Wallflower, one of the coming-of-age movies that came out in my lifetime that I'm very proud that came out in 2012, too. It's a great high school coming-of-age movie. None of those people were in high school either. Yeah, Perks of Being a Wallflower. It's excellent. You get Emma Watson in this movie, too. Absolutely killing it. Logan Lerman, Ezra Miller. Chronicle, Project X. Come on. Silver Linings Playbook, The Avengers. This was the year of The Avengers. Big year. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. You haven't seen it? It's worth it. This was one that was on at 1 a.m. Gosh, in my head, in my brain, it is one of the best movies of all time. And I try to keep it in that part of the brain. Just, you can do the same. It'll keep you happier. Also, we got exposed to the Amazing Spider-Man 2012. Maybe one of the first reboots of our lifetime where we actually saw something get reboot in real life that we once loved. Crazy. 2013, big year I graduated high school. And it's the movie I'm going with. It's another coming-of-age one. It's a summer indie movie called The Way Back. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Steve Carell is an absolute dick in this movie. He plays this kind of this mom's boyfriend is really what he is, because the story is about a young boy who goes with his mom to her boyfriend's like beach house, and this kid hates it there. He finds a community at a nearby water park, and he meets a lifeguard played by Sam Rockwell, who, gosh, another one kind of like the Jack Black character, where like you see the way he interacts with kids that age, and it just gets you fired up. It's awesome. Of course, there's a lot of great acting across the board here because it's a great cast. But I would definitely recommend checking out The Way, Way Back. Great summer movie. 2013 also gave us Prisoners, Now You See Me, The Conjuring, and This Is the End, which This Is the End. Got a little story here. I worked at Blockbuster in 2013, and I worked there from August 2013 to January of 2014 because they closed their doors in January of 2014. Now, in about November, we got the news that Blockbuster was shutting down, and you remember walking into Blockbuster, you would turn and you'd look up at the board and it would show you the movies we got. And then it would show like coming soon. So it'd be like now playing and coming soon. Well, we had these slips that said This Is the End because This Is the End was coming out. It was 2013. But we knew the news that Blockbuster was closing. So we took those slips that said This Is the End and we filled every line of the board with This Is the End because people were coming in and they're like, hey, you guys are closing. What's going on? It's like, yeah, we're closing. You can still rent, though, if you want. And then people would just be like, all right. And, we'd get 10 customers a day. It'd be great. Blockbuster 2013. But that's a memory I will have forever. And This Is the End is also just a fun comedy. It's an all-star game of comedy, if you will. All of huge names. I mean, it's an all-star gauntlet of comedy. And again, Emma Watson. Saying yes a lot back then. Good for her. 2014, my answer changed 3 times for this year because a lot of really good movies came out in 2014. And I bet when I list off these movies, you'll probably agree with some. So 2014 wasn't a fantastic year for movies, and I believe that if I list off all those movies that came out, you'll probably pick a different one than I pick. But I also picked different each time I've revisited this list. So when I initially wrote it, I went with Gone Girl, amazing David Fincher movie. Everyone loves Gone Girl if you've seen it. Second one was Boyhood, Richard Linklater movie that was told over many, many years, watched a boy actually grow up on film. I thought it worked and I thought it was amazing. Maybe a couple scenes didn't, but I loved Boyhood when I watched it. But the answer is Whiplash. Whiplash is the best movie of 2014. Miles Teller, Damien Chazelle making his directorial debut. J.K. Simmons winning Best Supporting Actor and one of the best performances of my lifetime, like that I've seen. You understand what I mean. J.K. Simmons as this band instructor, and Miles Teller as this young, fired up man who wants to be a great. It's an amazing movie. He used this movie to make La La Land too. This was a stepping stone movie for Damien Chazelle. Of course, it was personal. It meant a lot to him, but the one he wanted to make was La La Land, which is crazy that that's what you get with Whiplash. Other great movies that came out in 2014, Nightcrawler. Doesn't sit the same for me anymore, to be honest. Birdman, Interstellar. That's probably a lot of people's choice. Ex Machina, fantastic. Chef, fantastic. John Wick, fantastic. Grand Budapest Hotel, Edge of Tomorrow, and American Sniper. Yeah, heavy hitters in 2014 for sure. 2015 here. We got a couple more left. The Big Short was my answer. This is about the financial crisis in 2007 and the small group of people who saw it coming. The hard part about this movie, which I'm critical of today, is it's a big cast, but you never see any of them interact. They're all in separate rooms, but it works well with the story that they're telling here because it takes place across rooms across the country. A bunch of people were in on the fact that the housing market was going to crash. And it is this incredible story. I believe that this movie came from the book of the same writer that wrote Accidental Billionaires, which gave us The Social Network. Adam McKay directed The Big Short, which probably got him Succession later on. It's similarly shot. We also do get Kendall Roy in this movie as well. Great cast. Ryan Gosling, Christian Bale, Brad Pitt, Steve Carell. Again, you don't see them all in the same room, but you see them all in the same mission. And I love this movie. So, again, a premise that seems so boring, but they make it so exciting. And it doesn't help that Margot Robbie's in the bathtub for that. Other great movies in 2015, The Hateful Eight. I love The Hateful Eight. Sicario. The Force Awakens came out. And here's one you probably haven't seen. Mistress America, directed by Noah Baumbach, starring Greta Gerwig. A great New York story about a 19-year-old who shows up in New York. She hits up, I believe, a family member who's in her late 20s, almost 30s. And kind of is her Yoda for New York City. So it's pretty crazy. Pretty good movie. That's Mistress America. 2016 was a crazy year because I was living in Connecticut, spent my first winter in Connecticut, and I walked through the very cold snow by myself in the dark to a movie theater where maybe there was one or two other people in it by a train station in Greenwich, Connecticut, and I watched the movie Manchester by the Sea, and it has had a grip on my throat ever since. I adore Manchester by the Sea so much. It's my favorite movie of 2016. And maybe of the 2010s and maybe of the 2000s, maybe of the 2010s. I'm not sure. Possibly. But I love Manchester by the Sea. Casey Affleck, Lucas Hedges, Kyle Chandler, Michelle Williams. Lovely, lovely score. I think I connect really strongly to this one because I saw this movie while I was experiencing my first New England winter. And like I said, I was walking in the snow like to the movie, and a lot of this movie you just see it's just a lot of cold, and like it matches the emotion of the movie too, which is just like unmovable cold. And I know that's like not a very exciting feeling and kind of like, why would you love that? But it captures it so well in this very unique story. Like, to me, this story is not about a guy who went through something really crazy. It's a story about a man trying to come to grips with his new reality. And he's been trying to come to grips with his new reality for a long time. And just some super satisfying moments. Also just some real life moments. Like, I don't know, there's a scene where they're leaving a lawyer's office and he drops his keys and like they show all of that. And it's like just as frustrating. It's like getting the door. I love this movie. Kenneth Lonergan, great script. Great directing here too. I love Manchester by the Sea. Oh, so good. But so many movies came out this year that I loved. Sing Street, La La Land, Everybody Wants Some, fantastic hangout movie. Don't Think Twice, Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping, Moonlight, Hell or High Water, Don't Breathe, Hacksaw Ridge, Patriots Day, Captain America Civil War, which gave us Tom Holland's Spider-Man was that year, and Split, which was a pretty powerful movie. That was a dominant January release, if I'm not mistaken. 2017, my favorite movie of this year was Get Out, Jordan Peele. Yeah, the guy from Key and Peele. Yeah, do you remember that? Remember being in 2016 hearing that guy put out a horror movie, and then it was one of the smartest horror movies that you've ever seen with, gosh, some of the best acting from Daniel Kaluuya and Allison Williams. Like, oh, what a premise, what a twist. I love Get Out. Like, another one that's like, dude, that's like your first movie. This is like your early work. This is your introduction, kind of like the Memento thing that you saw earlier. Fantastic start for Jordan Peele. He's only gotten more and more ambitious, but it starts with Get Out, and Get Out is just so flawless. And I'll never forget being in that theater for that final scene when the police rolls up on Daniel Kaluuya's character, just with his hands on Allison Williams' neck, and you just feel something in the movie that had nothing to do with the movie, but had everything to do with what was going on in the world, and the air was taken out of the room because you knew the circumstances weren't what they looked like, but you figured an ending was going to come a specific way. And no spoilers. No spoilers. That's all I'll say. Well done, Jordan Peele, and thank you for Get Out. Other great movies in 2017, Dunkirk, which I've argued is my favorite, Dunkirk, which I've argued is the best Christopher Nolan movie. Wow, and it's not your favorite 2017? Does that make sense, Dylan? No. Good Time. If you haven't seen Good Time, go see it. The Big Sick, different from The Big Short. Coco, The Florida Project, Phantom Thread, Lady Bird, Molly's Game, Wonder Woman, Baby Driver, and the Lego Batman movie. All good ones from that year. 2018 was a huge year. 2017. Let's do this. Good Time, Coco, The Florida Project, Phantom Thread, Call Me by Your Name, Lady Bird, Molly's Game, Wonder Woman, Baby Driver, and Lego Batman movie. All excellent. 2018 was a huge year for me, and my favorite movie comes with a bit of a story time. It was June. I was in Hoboken, New Jersey. I was working on a short film, and I knew I was moving to LA within a month. I didn't have a day picked out per se, but I knew that I was going to go. But I didn't have any like set date because I didn't have a job that was like starting on a certain date. I just had to get out there and start working. So I was trying to figure out like, oh gosh, when do I go? When do I go? Well, I saw that my favorite comedian, Bo Burnham, who I loved his videos when I was a kid, like on YouTube, and I had followed his stand-up specials as he put them out as he grew up, a couple years older than me. And I remember I went and saw him live when I graduated high school in 2013. And then I saw him live when I moved to Connecticut in 2015 when he filmed a stand-up special. And then I see summer of 2018 that he's directed a movie for A24 called 8th Grade. And he's doing a screening where he's going to do a Q&A at a theater in LA on July 14th, 2018. And in June, I was like, I'm going to buy these tickets. So I bought 2 tickets, one for me, one for Jacob. Shout out Jacob. I stayed on his floor when I moved out here. But I packed up my car in the coming weeks and I hit the road, and all I had to do is I just had to be in LA by the time that movie started on July 14th, 2018, and pulled up to LA that morning. Went with Jacob to that movie theater. Bo Burnham came out, did a Q&A after, and I mean, I was blown away by this movie. It was everything I had hoped it would be. People throw around like John Hughes classic all the time. This one was such a great coming of age movie. I've said coming of age a million times. Take a drink. If I say coming of age, start the video over, do it again. But 8th Grade with Elsie Fisher leading, and like this being something that Bo Burnham wrote about, a 13-year-old girl who's growing up with social media, which even 10 years later, like social media has gotten even wilder, and like it's a time that you had never seen shown on film before, that like a young person was wrestling with the things they were posting and how they were interacting with people at school, but like online in like a really real vulnerable way. And you get a great father-daughter moment here. You get a great like mall scene moment, and one of the most crucial scenes that I think every young man and woman should see is in this movie as well. And I just love it. I'm glad it lived up to the expectations. Like I said too, the Bo Burnham thing he's just one of my favorite artists in my life. And to see him put out a great movie that he wrote and directed, and yeah, proud of him. Thankful for 8th Grade too. And yeah, I'll never forget that movie. I love it. Other great movies in 2018, BlacKkKlansman, Under the Silver Lake, Cold War, mid-90s, Sorry to Bother You, which was the last movie I saw in New York City with my buddy Chris. Shout out, Chris. Hereditary, Annihilation, Black Panther, Bumblebee, Ready Player One. Shout out. What a year, 2018. Saw a lot that year. 2019 gives us our first foreign movie of the DBN 30 for 30 here, and that's Parasite. Parasite, if you haven't seen it, again, I'm jealous. I wish I could watch Parasite for the first time again. Great movie. Korean movie. Bong Joon-ho directed. Awesome story about a family infiltrating another family's house, taking over slowly. Visually, it's so stunning. And just like you forget you're watching a foreign movie. Even like you're just so locked into these actors and these characters. And gosh, I love it. I could watch this one anytime. It's probably due for a watch, to be honest. It's been enough time to pass. I could throw on Parasite. Love it. Glad it swept at the Oscars, too. Bong Joon-ho at the Oscars gave us everything we needed. Other great movies in 2019 that I adored, Booksmart, Little Women, Knives Out, which has grown on me more and more. I have Knives Out in November. I watch it almost every November. Knives Out. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Uncut Gems, Marriage Story, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Art of Self-Defense. If you haven't heard of that, check it out. Honey Boy, Joker. 2019 also gave us a crazy blockbuster franchise-ending year. Rise of Skywalker and Avengers Endgame came out in 2019. What a year for Disney. Raked in money that year, printing it. Another fantastic movie I want to highlight, Our Friend. Check it out. Jason Segel, Casey Affleck, Dakota Johnson. A great movie about friendship and trials that happen when one of your friends goes through something that's not fun. Gosh, it's kind of sad, but it's good. I recommend. My favorite movie of 2020 was a movie that didn't make a lot of money and maybe you haven't heard of. And if you haven't heard of it, I'm glad you can maybe hear about it now. It's Shithouse. Yeah, a movie called Shithouse is the best movie of 2020. I stand by that. I will die by that. It's a great movie. This is a coming of age story, but for a very, very small window of time. And that is the first week of college, I believe. It's like the opposite of Everybody Wants Some. Instead of having so much fun your first weekend, this kid is dealing with how do I get out of my shell and have fun. And he does get out of his shell. He does have fun, but he also wrestles with that along the way. And it's a great movie. Young writer, director, and actor, Cooper Raiff. Dylan Galula, also fantastic in this movie. Check out Shithouse if you can. Other favorites from that year, Promising Young Woman, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Palm Springs, shout out Kristen Milioti. Just because, we're not doing TV shows on here, but Kristen Milioti, you have impacted my 30 years of life. You know what you did. That's a reference to the Penguin. To Five Bloods and Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. Great movie. 2021, we were either coming out of the pandemic or we were still very much in the pandemic. And that's why my favorite movie of this year, I guess, is maybe breaking the rules, but I think I make the rules because my name's on the channel. But my favorite movie of 2021, my favorite film, my favorite thing I saw that year was Inside, the comedy special by Bo Burnham. Just amazing what he can do by himself. Like I said, I'd watched Bo Burnham evolve over the years, and he says it in the special, but in 2020, he was ready to get back on stage. He had taken years off, and when he couldn't get back on stage, he had to get creative. And because of that, we get one of the greatest pictures of art I've ever seen, which is Inside. And it's maybe going to be it maybe will be the perfect time capsule piece of the pandemic because it shows all of the cultural things that were going on at the time. And he was turning 30 then too. Shout out. Now everyone has an anthem for turning 30. He was talking about Jeffrey Bezos, talking about white women's Instagram. Everything was in there. And I'm not sure how it'll hold up over the years, but I know I loved it. And I mean, he gave us All Eyes on Me, which it's a banger. It's a banger. Other great ones in 2021, Tick, Tick, Boom, which was an excellent musical with Andrew Garfield and Vanessa Hudgens. Got to recommend that. No Way Home, Spider-Man No Way Home, which, it was huge culmination of all the Spider-Men coming together after a bunch of rumors and could they, will they, should they? They pulled it off perfectly with No Way Home. Loved seeing that movie. Dune, which I appreciated more later. Fear Street trilogy came out in 2021 on Netflix. Loved that trilogy. Really just had a strong grip on me. So got to highlight that if you haven't seen it. 2022 was such an easy one, and we went into this deep with Jacob. Everything Everywhere All at Once was my favorite movie of 2022. This movie, I knew nothing about it going in. And I have never, ever seen a movie like this. And I love it when a new movie comes out and like you get a new kind of favorite. And that's what this was. And is like, this is one of my family's favorite movies is It's a Wonderful Life. And I believe this is It's a Wonderful Life on acid. But this is a great movie about, appreciating your family, appreciating your life. But it's just told in this absolutely bizarre way. And I love it when directors and creators go crazy with their concepts and it lands so well. And this is a great example of that. If you haven't seen that by now, like you're crazy. You got to just stop, go watch that one. Everything Everywhere All at Once. Shout out A24 too. They swept the Oscars with that. Beautiful, beautiful work. 2022 gave us The Batman, Babylon. I don't know why people didn't like that movie. I loved Babylon. Long, but if you love movies, and I mean, this is Damien Chazelle. He kills it. I love Babylon. Bodies was a fun horror. Tar, Emily the Criminal, and Barbarian. 2023 gave us Barbenheimer, and one of those movies is my favorite movie of 23. Oppenheimer, no doubt. There's no even teasing that it could have been the other one. Oppenheimer was the culmination of Christopher Nolan's work in my eyes. I think it sights, sound, performances, spectacle all kind of came together in this movie so perfectly. All the shine that this movie got, it deserved. All the performances from Florence Pugh to Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt. I love this one. Even Matt Damon shows up and is not that distracting. I loved Oppenheimer. It's more of a slow burn movie. It might maybe not as easy to throw on as some of the others, but it's just so well crafted. I did do Barbenheimer that day. I can't admit to that, and I'm proud of it. Across the Spider-Verse was a close second for 2023 as well. Strange Darling, which most people saw that in 2024, but says it came out in 2023, so I have to mention it here. Flora and Son, Theater Camp. Gosh, if you ever went to a summer camp, you need to watch Theater Camp. Any type of summer camp. It is so funny, and you can tell the people who made this movie went to summer camp, and they captured it absolutely perfectly. So I recommend you got to see Theater Camp if you can. Please watch it. Past Lives, one of the best romance movies of the last 10 or so years. The Holdovers, maybe a new holiday classic. That brings us to 2024, which is my favorite movie of the year, man. You probably haven't heard of it, and I love that. And we'll see. It might not, last as long. I haven't seen every movie in 2024, and I mean all these years. This list is subject to change. I could do this when I'm 60, and they all could be different. 2024 gifted us the movie Kneecap. Yeah, Kneecap. Kneecap is a story of an Irish rap group in 2019. Now, remember, this is coming out in 2024, 2019, and that's kind of all I want to say. It's an Irish rap group. It takes place in Ireland, in Belfast, and that's kind of all I want to give you because that's all I had. But it's a story that I never knew could exist in a way that I've never seen told before, if that makes any sense. Like, absolutely fantastic storytelling, and even better, the movie's actors are played by the actual members of the group Kneecap, which seems like why would they do that? That sounds crazy. And all the events take place in 2019. So this is one of those, oh my gosh, wait, this thing just happened and we're already making a movie on it. That seems ridiculous. It is, but it works here. So I highly recommend Kneecap. I think it's on Netflix right now. So go watch it. Kneecap. Tell them the DBN sent you. Other good ones in 2024, which, I thought it was a solid year. The Substance was amazing, and I'm so happy for Demi Moore that she's getting a lot of shine. Nosferatu was a great movie. Dune Part 2 was everything a movie could give you. My Old Ass, fantastic coming-of-age movie. Which is on Prime. I recommend that. Aubrey Plaza, but she's not going to be the one that steals your heart in that movie. Maisie Stella's on the scene now. Y2K, Kyle Mooney going out there and it working. I love it. Long Legs was a great horror movie. Late Night with the Devil, a great horror movie. A great documentary that came out this year from Andrew McCarthy on Hulu was called Brats, which I really appreciated as well, which highlighted the Brat Pack, which is also cool for Demi Moore. She participated in that one. Not all of them did, but again, an interesting look on the Brat Pack and how each of those actors took on kind of that title, which was pretty great. Now, we're in 2025 now. It's January, to be transparent, and I've given you 29 movies. I don't know what my favorite movie of 2025 will be yet. So what I'm going to do instead is just tell you what my favorite movie is of all time. And it was made before I was born. So the 30th movie of the DBN, 30 for 30, wow, glad I came up with that along the way, is The Breakfast Club. The Breakfast Club is my favorite movie of all time. And that's probably why I highlighted so many coming of age movies. It's my favorite genre. It was a really, really important time of life. It's like so formative, and it's this time as a human being where like you really are understanding on how to be a human being, and that there are other human beings and they're affected, and different personalities can clash, and that still doesn't change the fact that we're all humans. And I know it's just a movie about Saturday detention. And I remember I was 15 years old, and my mom was like, hey, you love Ferris Bueller's Day Off and you like 16 Candles. You should watch The Breakfast Club. And I was like, okay. So I went upstairs. I watched The Breakfast Club. I was blown away. Went downstairs and I said, hey, I watched The Breakfast Club. It's pretty great. Mom was like, oh, really? Nice. Good. I was like, yeah. I went back upstairs and I watched it again. And I remember this was May of 2010. And I remember I would come home from school or from wherever I was, and I would just watch that movie over and over again that month. Honestly, probably over 20 times. And I mean that. And there was something about it that, like, I couldn't believe that I was connecting to these high schoolers in this movie from 1985. And it fully blew open the doors of like what a movie could do, like on an emotional level, that you could watch a movie and that it could transcend time, that you could watch something and be like, wait, I feel like what that kid's feeling and what he's talking about. And it's, almost 35 years later, and it blew me away. And I just loved it. And it's my favorite movie of all time. I can throw that on whenever. I could quote it like crazy. And yeah, I just appreciate it so much. Every scene there, every line, so intentional and so purposeful, and lands across generations. Wow, we did it. We made it to the end. That's 30 years. That's 30 movies. Where was I wrong? Where was I right? Leave a comment below. Go on Letterboxd. Make your own list. That's how I did this. Is I went on Letterboxd. The link is below. And yeah, they make it real easy to kind of stack up the movies. Takes a little bit of time. You might need Google open to check all the movies that came out in those certain years. But you can also, on Letterboxd, select the year. It shows you all the movies that you've seen in that year. Make your own list. How is it different than mine? And yeah, watch how your taste changed. One thing I've done since 2017 is I've logged every movie I've watched since then. And I'm grateful for it, because movies aren't just my hobby, they're my passion. And they are my favorite form of storytelling. And I think I'll always love movies. I have a harder time with TV shows. I don't love reading books. But there's something I've always loved about movies. And here's to 30 years more, some more movies. Thanks so much for being here. Hopefully you got a long list of recommends that you need to watch now. And let me know what you think. Love you. Glad you're here.